A well-dressed woman with exquisite makeup was unexpectedly seen following a group of elderly women, hesitantly helping them clean. She even endured their sarcastic remarks. Her name was Hygiene, a well-known dental doctor, living a high-class life in the big city, owning a house, a car, and wearing luxury brands. That day, she followed her usual routine, waking up, freshening up, and heading to work. However, she encountered an elderly woman in the elevator. The old woman's excessive enthusiasm left Hygiene feeling a bit uncomfortable. What she didn't know was that this woman would change her life forever. That day, Hygiene's first patient turned out to be the elderly woman from the elevator. After learning about her financial situation, Hygiene kindly offered her the most affordable treatment plan. Because of this, the director reprimanded her and even reassigned the patient to another dentist. Frustrated, Hygiene impulsively resigned. After drinking with a friend to vent her frustration, she recklessly filed a complaint against the clinic on a dental review website. Though she regretted it after sobering up, it was too late. Her actions, combined with the director's defamation, left her struggling to find a new job. On top of that, her impulsive resignation meant she had no income to pay her mortgage and credit card bills. Feeling lost, she realized it was her mother's birthday and decided to visit the seaside, a place full of fond memories. However, as she walked along the shore, the waves carried away one of her limited edition shoes. Just as she was panicking, a man retrieved one of her shoes and returned it to her. Grateful yet still anxious, she asked him to help find the other shoe. The man, however, scolded her for being ungrateful. Despite his harsh words, he ended up giving her his own slippers when he saw her struggling. Left with no choice, she wore them and prepared to leave, only to find that her car wouldn't start. To make matters worse, her phone had no signal. As she got out to look for a payphone, her stomach started growling, so she stopped by a roadside cafe and ordered a coffee while taking the opportunity to use the restroom. But when she tried to pay, her credit card was declined, and she had no cash. The cafe owner accused her of trying to scam them. Just then, a man walked in. It was the same one who had given her the slippers. Embarrassed but desperate, she mustered up the courage to ask him to lend her money for the coffee. Seeing her in such an awkward situation, the man thought for a moment before saying, "No way." Then he added, "Come with me." "What?" she asked in surprise. "I'll take you somewhere," he said, turning around and walking off. With no other options, she had no choice but to follow him. Hygiene never expected to come full circle like this. She ended up at the dock, only to realize in shock that the man wanted her to help clean up the fishing nets. Without hesitation, she refused. However, the man completely ignored her protests and handed her over to a group of elderly women, who immediately put her to work. Left with no choice, Hygiene followed along, though she was constantly criticized by the elderly women for not doing things properly. It wasn't until evening that the man returned, handing her the wages she had earned over the past few hours. She used the money to pay back the cafe owner for the coffee. Then, remembering her broken-down car, she reluctantly asked the man to take a look. After inspecting it, he told her it wouldn't be fixed until the next day when the repair shop opened. With nowhere else to go, Hygiene had no choice but to follow his suggestion and stay the night at a local inn. To her surprise, the man turned out to be a staff member there. Even more unexpected, her room had bugs. She barely made it through the night. By morning, her car was finally repaired, and she was ready to leave. Just then, she received a call from her former clinic's director. He smugly told her that because she had filed a complaint against him on the dental website, she would never find a job again. Angered by his arrogance, Hygiene gritted her teeth and declared, "Fine. I'll come find you." With that, she stepped on the gas and sped off, back toward town. She decided to open her own clinic in this unfamiliar seaside town and start looking for an agent. However, she quickly realized that everything here was completely different from what she was used to, especially that man. At first, she thought he was just a seafood seller. The man took her to meet the estate agent. Hygiene followed her to check out the available shops. Though slightly dissatisfied, Hygiene decided to meet with the landlord. But when the landlord arrived, she was stunned. Wasn't this the same man who had taken her to the real estate agent? Hygiene felt like she had been completely tricked. But the two people standing in front of her confidently declared, "We're all public servants. Our faces are our business cards." At last, she successfully rented the place for her clinic. Renovation was a must, and just as she had feared, when the squad leader told her, "You can leave the renovations to me," thinking about how specialized renovation work was, she skeptically responded, "You can't just casually say you know how to renovate." Without a word, the squad leader pulled out a stack of qualification certificates. Hygiene stared at them. Despite the atmosphere, the renovations were finally completed, and Hygiene officially moved into town. Coincidentally, she arrived just in time for a town banquet. Seeing how enthusiastic her landlady was about the event, Hygiene decided this was the perfect opportunity to promote her new clinic. The next day, as soon as she arrived, the elderly residents greeted her warmly, making everything seem promising. But the situation took an awkward turn when a kind elderly woman handed her a bowl of food. Under everyone's watchful eyes, Hygiene hesitated before reaching for a spoon, only for an old lady beside her to put it down. Trying to smooth things over, the old lady reassured her, "Don't worry, her hands are very clean." Just as the tension reached its peak, the landlady arrived and broke the silence. She asked Hygiene politely, "Is there anything inconvenient about the house?" Hygiene, not one to hold back, immediately started listing issues. "Well, some of the floor tiles have gaps that don't look nice. The mosquito screen has a hole about the size of half a fingernail. Also, the grilled fish from the restaurant is way too big." At that moment, everyone just wanted her to shut up. The landlady's face went through several shades of color before she forced a stiff smile. Just then, the local supermarket owner, Paul's mom, greeted her warmly. "You're always welcome to shop at our supermarket. We have everything you need." Hygiene responded without thinking, "Oh, I only use imported products. Your supermarket doesn't seem to carry those." Hygiene was left standing awkwardly in the wind. And then, the cafe owner showed up. Faced with his confidence, Hygiene felt utterly exhausted. She quickly made up an excuse and escaped. The squad leader later advised her, "You need to be more careful when you speak." But Hygiene didn't take it seriously. Just then, her best friend arrived at the clinic. To escape the noise, Hygiene ducked into the town's broadcast room to chat. Unfortunately, what she didn't realize was that someone outside had accidentally turned off the music and turned on the mic instead. Everything before this was just an appetizer. The real disaster was about to begin. Inside the broadcast room, completely unaware, Hygiene was venting to her friend. "Today, I met some wannabe singer. He kept bragging about how amazing his voice is, saying he's only unknown because of bad luck." Unbeknownst to her, her voice was being broadcasted across the entire town. Hygiene had just finished complaining when she confidently walked out of the broadcast room, only to be met with a courtyard full of people staring at her in stunned silence. Wait, what was going on? Then it hit her. She had just unknowingly broadcasted her entire rant to the entire town. And just like that, all the effort she had put into promoting her dental clinic is gone. The clinic hadn't even officially opened yet, and she had already managed to ruin its reputation. Just then, her best friend, Sian, arrived for a visit. Turns out, she had been ghosted by another terrible boyfriend and was completely heartbroken. In a moment of emotional impulsivity, she declared she was staying in town to work as Hygiene's dental assistant. Finally, the long-awaited opening day arrived. The two of them had prepared meticulously, making sure everything was perfect. They opened their doors right on time, and then, not a single patient showed up. Walking through town later, Hygiene couldn't ignore the way people looked at her. Sian pressed her for answers. Hygiene finally confessed about the broadcasting disaster. Sian was horrified. Without hesitation, she advised Hygiene to cut her losses and move back to the city immediately. But Hygiene refused to give up just yet. She decided to personally visit her neighbors, offering them sweets as a goodwill gesture. However, the response was clear. No one was in a rush to forgive or forget. The clinic remained dead silent, and even the squad leader was growing frustrated, worrying endlessly about how to help. In one last desperate attempt to fix things, the squad leader dragged Hygiene to a community meeting, held at the very location of her biggest humiliation. "This is your chance," the squad leader told her. "You can't undo the past, but you can apologize. Just be honest and say, 'I messed up.'" With no other option, Hygiene took a deep breath, straightened her back, and walked into the meeting. right as the townspeople were passionately discussing all the ridiculous things she had done since arriving. Hygiene's unexpected arrival at the meeting left everyone in shock. She stood awkwardly under their gazes, unsure of what to do, until the squad leader walked in with a huge box of snacks and cheerfully announced that Hygiene had come to apologize. "These are for everyone." The atmosphere finally began to relax. People slowly let go of their grudges. By the time the meeting ended, it seemed like Hygiene had somewhat redeemed herself. As they left, the squad leader casually reached for Hygiene's hand. Wait, was this a hand-holding moment? Hygiene thought, slightly panicked. But before she could overthink it, the squad leader's hand lightly brushed over hers and left a bill in her palm. The squad leader, however, wasn't done with her yet. Determined to force Hygiene into the community, she continued to meddle. And finally, the impossible happened. A patient walked into the clinic. The poor man looked around at the empty, lifeless waiting room, momentarily wondering if he had walked into an abandoned building. Meanwhile, Hygiene and Messian were so excited that they nearly scared him off. Their first real patient. Later, Hygiene realized that this, too, was thanks to the squad leader. She remembered something the squad leader had said before: life isn't fair. Some people walk on a smooth path, while others struggle through endless obstacles. And some? They run with everything they have, only to find themselves at the edge of a cliff. Overwhelmed with gratitude, she rushed to find the squad leader, but before she could, she ran into the coffee shop owner. She sincerely apologized and even gave an honest, and slightly kinder, review of his songs. With that, something changed in her. The once arrogant city girl now walked with a lighter step. Even picking up her packages felt different. Maybe because her delivery guy was none other than the squad leader himself. Every time Hygiene saw him, she couldn't help but remember the time she had accidentally fallen into his arms. But before she could dwell on that, reality called. Her high school reunion was coming up. Like many others, Hygiene felt a mix of excitement and dread. If she was going, she had to be fully prepared. New clothes, flawless hair, and even a perfect set of teeth. But there was one small problem. Somehow, she ended up dragging along 3 elderly women for the trip. The journey to the city was anything but smooth. Due to their age, the grandmothers needed frequent bathroom breaks, forcing Hygiene to stop at one rest area after another. By the time they finally arrived, she was on the verge of a full-blown meltdown. At the reunion, Hygiene quickly found herself in a battle of status updates. Old classmates grouped together based on their careers and achievements, each trying to outdo the other. Luckily, Hygiene's competitive spirit was still intact, and she managed to hold her ground in the intense social sparring. Back at the clinic, the squad leader arrived one day carrying Grandma Gamri on his back. The elderly woman, once strong and independent, was now struggling to eat even rice but still refused to visit the dentist. After examining her, Hygiene found serious dental issues and strongly recommended implants for the sake of her health. However, the cost made Grandma Gamri hesitate. The squad leader tried to convince her, but the old woman refused outright. She insisted on simply having the bad teeth pulled. Frustrated, Hygiene raised her voice, saying, "You can't just pull teeth without considering the consequences. At your age, this affects your overall health." Then, in the heat of the moment, she blurted out, "Or is it because you can't afford it?" The old woman's face darkened. "My son is an accountant in the city, my grandson studies in America, and I own land and property. How dare you assume I have no money?" she snapped. Hygiene was stunned. She realized that Grandma Gamri had spent her whole life giving to her family but never considered her own well-being. And yet, in Hygiene's eyes, this selflessness was a kind of selfishness. By neglecting herself, she was making her loved ones worry. Before she could say more, the elderly woman stormed out, leaving the squad leader furious at Hygiene's words. The tension in the air was thick. Later, Grandma Gamri called her son to discuss the dental implants, but before she could even mention it, her son cut her off. He told her that the squad leader had already informed him, but with his son studying abroad, his financial burden was too heavy. He begged her to wait another year. Despite the pain in her heart, the elderly woman forced a smile and reassured him, "Don't worry about me. Just focus on your own life." Eventually, Grandma Gamri had a change of heart. She decided that from now on, she would start living for herself. The squad leader knew that this was Hygiene's doing. That evening, the electricity at Hygiene's home went out. The squad leader came over to fix it. While checking the wiring, she secretly placed a shoe inside a cabinet, the very same one that had been lost to the sea. Unbeknownst to Hygiene, the squad leader had found it, carefully cleaned and restored it. When the repairs were done, she casually told Hygiene to check inside the cabinet. As Hygiene opened the door, she gasped in shock. Her lost shoe was back, now reunited as a complete pair. Overjoyed, she ran outside to find him. At that very moment, the town's streetlights lit up one by one, illuminating the dark night and their gazes. The squad leader looked up to see Hygiene twirling with excitement. Something shifted between them. They had unknowingly stepped into each other's hearts. From then on, even her favorite spicy noodles lost their appeal if the delivery person wasn't him. She started attending boring merchant gatherings, just because she heard he was in charge. However, no matter how much she prepared, Hygiene couldn't escape boredom at one of these events. She desperately wanted to leave but found no chance to slip away. So, she pretended to fall asleep, hoping it would be an excuse to leave early. Just as she closed her eyes, she heard a familiar voice, the squad leader singing. But before she could react, she suddenly realized no one had woken her up. And then, she felt herself being carried away on someone's back. The squad leader, without a word, had simply picked her up and left the gathering. As they disappeared into the night, one of her beloved shoes slipped off once again. The squad leader chuckled, knowing full well that Hygiene was only pretending to be asleep, yet he still carried her all the way home. Even more surprising, he started delivering coffee straight to her door, free of charge. One day, while on vacation, the squad leader received a call from Grandma Gamri. The neighbors were stunned to see him, who usually refused to work during his time off, suddenly rushing off in a frenzy. It turned out that the clinic had encountered trouble. A male patient, knowing there were no security cameras, had taken advantage of Miss Ian being alone while treating him. Just as he made his move, Hygiene walked in and immediately dragged him away, loudly reprimanding him. However, the man, rather than feeling shame, brazenly called 120 emergency services, accusing Hygiene instead. He thought she had no evidence and arrogantly assumed nothing could be done to him. Miss Ian, worried that the clinic's newfound reputation might suffer, suggested letting the matter go. But Hygiene, fiercely loyal and principled, refused to let her friend endure such humiliation. Just as things were heating up, the squad leader arrived like a storm, furious and even more ruthless than Hygiene. 120 eventually took the man to the hospital, but Hygiene couldn't shake off her curiosity. How did the squad leader manage to arrive just in time? The truth? Grandma Gamri had taken the man's phone and tracked his location. This allowed the squad leader to find him at the hospital and have a friendly chat about life. And just like that, the matter was settled. Later, Hygiene brought a gift to thank the squad leader, but she hesitated for a long time. Should she really leave this expensive drink behind? The squad leader caught her in the act, forcing her to awkwardly lift the bottle and invite her to share it. As they drank, the atmosphere shifted. It was no longer just about gratitude. Originally, she wanted to act all composed, but her plan completely backfired. The squad leader mercilessly mocked her on the spot. "We're all civilized people. Let's just drink properly." As the drinks kept flowing, their guards slowly melted away. The next morning, Hygiene woke up in the wrong place. She quietly sneaked out, hoping no one would see her. But the moment she stepped outside, the moment Big Mouth caught sight of Hygiene, she immediately smelled gossip and wasted no time spreading the news throughout the entire village. Back home, fragments of the previous night flashed through Hygiene's mind, but just as she was about to remember something crucial, her mind went blank. She had no choice but to brace herself and head to work, only to walk straight into a group of nosy onlookers. And just then, Red Squad leader appeared, casually greeting her. Seizing the chance to escape the gossip circle, Hygiene invited him to breakfast, but she underestimated the villagers' determination. They shamelessly eavesdropped, forcing Hygiene to ignore them and instead probe squad leader about what happened last night. According to squad leader, nothing particularly outrageous had occurred. Relieved, Hygiene let her guard down, until squad leader suddenly invited her for coffee again. Not one to beat around the bush, Hygiene directly asked, "What exactly are we to each other?" Without hesitation, squad leader replied, "We're just comrades." Hygiene's heart sank. Annoyed, she retorted, "We wouldn't make a good match anyway." The conversation ended on a sour note, and the two parted unhappily. Thanks for watching. Please like and drop a heart for part 2.